What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. And today we are talking win total bets in the Big Ten ahead of the 2022 season. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. And we are brought to you today by BetMGM. They have a phenomenal offer for you guys. You can get up to a $1,000 risk-free bet with your first deposit. And all you have to do is either click the link in the video description below or use the promo code OSCFB. That will let them know who sent you, and you can take advantage of that free $1,000 risk-free bet when you make your first deposit again. Diving into the win totals here, the Big Ten's a really interesting conference. It's kind of unlike any other. We have a very clear favorite in Ohio State to win it all. And even when you look at the other conferences, you don't see a team like Ohio State who is minus 215 to win their conference. Even Alabama's not that big of a favorite. So betting this conference is a little trickier. I personally think some of the better win totals are in the West. And I want to start there with Wisconsin, currently sitting at 8.5. The over is minus 145, but I think this is one we should be looking at towards the over, and it should probably be 9 or 9.5. First things first with this team, the schedule is winnable. Their non-con features Illinois State, Washington State, and New Mexico State. They should be 3-0. Their crossover features Ohio State, Michigan State, and Maryland. They'll be a dog to Ohio State. Michigan State should be about to pick them, and then Maryland, they'll be favored. The rest of their schedule is against the Big Ten West. Right now, if the season were to start today, Wisconsin is favored in at least 10 of their games and maybe 11, depending on how Michigan State looks early in the year. With an 8.5 win total right away, that stands out to me as a completely winnable schedule. Last year, they ended up going 9-4, and they had losses to Penn State, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Minnesota. I don't foresee that happening this year. And again, their non-con's not as difficult. They're not playing a team like Notre Dame. When you look at their schedule, they have an amazing running back in Braylon Allen, back rush for over 1,000 yards as a 17-year-old freshman. Their offensive line is solid. They're replacing two starters, but fortunately, those were their two worst starters in Logan Bruss and Jack Nelson. The biggest concern here is probably their defense, just 3 starters return. But again, they have the best defensive coordinator, arguably in college football, in Jim Leonhard, and they hit the transfer portal extremely hard. When you look at who they brought in, Jay Shaw comes in. He had 12 starts at UCLA. Cedric Dort comes in from Kentucky. He had 27 starts. Even their nickel, Justin Clark, he's a guy that started 19 games with Toledo, not to mention their depth. Their safeties, they have John Torchio back, who started a couple games. Travion Blaylock, they bring in Kamoyo Latu from Utah. Hunter Wohler's a former 4-star who played in 13 games as a true freshman. This team's a little deeper than the numbers and the returning starters might indicate. So the first bet here is going to be over 8.5 wins at minus 145 for Wisconsin. The second one, we're going to stick with our overs here and go to Nebraska. This one is sitting at 7.5, and it is minus 110. So you get even money on both sides here. This is a team that also has a fairly winnable non-con, with the exception of Oklahoma. That's going to be a tough rivalry game. But outside of that, they're playing Georgia Southern and North Dakota. You look at their crossover. They draw Michigan, but they also have Indiana and Rutgers, 2 of the worst teams in the Big Ten East, and 2 highly winnable games. Yes, they draw Wisconsin, but right now at the season were to start a day, they are underdogs in 3 games max, being Oklahoma, Michigan, and Wisconsin. The rest of their games are either close to a pick'em or they're favored. You're working with a 7.5 win total, so it is a workable number. And you look at their roster. This is a team that also hit the portal really hard. They do lose Adrian Martinez, but they bring in Casey Thompson. They have former 4-star Logan Smothers, another former 4-star in Chuba Purdy, good running backs. An offensive line, I'll say, that is improving. It was actually pretty bad last year, but a lot of that had to do with injury. You know, like players that ascended, like Teddy Prohashka on the offensive line, went down with injury. So this year, some of the production they're returning, I'm optimistic it'll be a little bit better here. And again, a lot of this just comes down to the schedule. They're playing an incredibly easy level of competition this year, and they do have solid transfers coming in really across the board at every position, and particularly so on defense, where you get players like O'Shawn Mathis and Stephon Wynn and Omar Brown, Tommy Hill, Kane Williams, the list goes on. We'll go over 7.5 with Nebraska. Last one here, we're going to take an under, and it is Northwestern. The total here is 4.5. The under is minus 150, but this is for a good reason. Right now, if you just look at overall odds to win the Big Ten, Northwestern is 50-1. The next closest in terms of odds to them is Illinois at 20-1. So this is ridiculous in terms of the numbers you can get here. I think overall, Northwestern, they're going to be dogs in just about every single game they play in conference this year. Non-con, you do have Southern Illinois, which they're probably going to win. Miami, Ohio, they're probably going to win. And Duke, that's probably a pick 'em. But otherwise, Nebraska, they're a dog. Penn State, dog. Wisconsin, Maryland, Iowa, Ohio State, Minnesota, Purdue, even Illinois, they're an underdog in every single game this year. So you're telling me they're favored in 2 games. Pick them maybe against Duke. Maybe we'll give them the favorite just to be generous. So favored in 3 games with a 4.5 win total. We'll look towards the under. The offense is in complete turmoil. They lost 2 starters in the offensive line. They have just 5 starters returning on defense. That defense finished 106th last year. They lost their best player, Brandon Joseph, to transfer. Receiver's been an issue for them, and now they lost their top receiver, Stephen Robinson. Quarterback is still a mess with former transfer Ryan Helinski looking like the starter. He completed just 54% of his passes, 5.6 yards per attempt. I don't see a way they're not underdogs in 9 games this year, if not 10. So it's really tough to back Northwestern. I'm going to be taking the under on their win total. It is 4.5 minus 150. Very generous odds there. And your bonus one, we didn't talk about any teams in the East, but I want to highlight Ohio State. Love this team overall. Their win total is just extremely high at 10.5, minus 250 to the over. Not something I would recommend locking up money in, but you can find them minus 215 to win the Big Ten. I think that's worthwhile. Plus 300 to win the national championship, I think, are fine odds. The team retains essentially a powerhouse offense, and they have receivers coming up to replace Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I think that's solid. What I really like on defense is their change in coordinators. They bring in Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State, who basically orchestrated the best defenses in the Big 12 over the last few years. That should be a big benefit to them. And as such big favorites in the Big Ten, I would rather just back them to win the Natty overall. So again, the 3 bets we are taking: Wisconsin over 8.5 minus 145, Nebraska over 7.5 minus 110, Northwestern under 4.5 minus 150. And if you're looking for a fun one, like Ohio State for the national championship, plus 300. Thank you to BetMGM for putting on the video. Again, you can get up to $1,000 in a risk-free bet if you use the promo code OSCFB or you click the link in the video description below. My name is Matt Gajewski. I'm on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. Let me know what you think of the video, these teams, and who you like for win totals in the Big Ten. Until next time, we will see you again then.